Hello, I'm Yogesh Mudras, Managing Director, Informa Markets in India, welcoming you again to this leadership conversations with the thought leaders of the industry. It gives me a great pleasure to have today Mr. Ravi Uday Bhaskar ji, Director General of Pharmexcil, as a part of our Super September Leadership Series. Thank you, sir, for so much for being with us here today for this very unique initiative that we are doing. As mentioned to you in my last leadership series interaction, Informa Markets India has kickstarted the Super September month of virtual B2B celebrations, a powerful array of 6 digital expos and 6 key verticals in the month of September 2020 alone. And we have our pharma virtual show coming up in the following week. And who better to have somebody to talk about this, the pharmaceutical sector totally than Shri Uday Bhaskar ji, who comes with the background of Pharmexcil. So this Super September virtual B2B celebration, we are bringing this exclusive leadership interactions, one-on-one interactions, where we are inviting these key thought leaders in their respective industry and space to have strategic discussion with us. Mr. Ravi Uday Bhaskar is an MPharm from Andhra University. He is currently the Director General of Pharmexcil, Pharma Export Promotion Council of India, set up by Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. He has worked in various capacities as Drug Control Administration of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana from 1989 to 2015. He's worked as General Manager, Andhra Pradesh Medical Services Corporation, and developed the concept of Jeevan Dhara, low-cost generic medicines, in the year 2010. He's received numerous commendations from the government of Andhra Pradesh for outstanding contribution as a regulator and the recipient of Lifetime Achievement Award in the year 2013 during the 65th Indian Pharmaceutical Congress. He has also taken roles as Secretary General of All India Drug Control Officers Confederation, AIDCOC, for 17 years. Since 17 years, he then became president of the same confederation from 1999 to 2003. As a president and secretary general of AIDCOC, he also played a pivotal role in strengthening the regulatory mechanism in the country. He was also elected as the president of Indian Pharmaceutical Congress Association 2019. And he joined as an additional executive director in Pharmexcil in 2016 and became elevated as Director General of Pharmexcil in year 2017. He has an extensive experience of traveling to various countries and doing business with various countries. And he has been a pivotal role in expansion of Indian pharma industries overseas. So again, good afternoon to you, sir, and pleasure to have you here.
Good afternoon, and thank you.
I think it's always great conversing with you. And I think my first question to you, sir, since we're talking about the entire industry, pharma industry, as we all know, has in fact been one of the industries which really has been a silver lining amongst this overall Indian economy in COVID-19. We have seen the degrowth in the GDP that has happened, with the GDP numbers which came out last about a couple of weeks back showed 24% drop in GDP. But pharma industry has grown 17% in the month of May itself over the year earlier. This is no mean achievement, we all know, considering different countries have now varied policies regarding importing drugs. How do you see this as India, as a country, we sustain this momentum of growth of pharma industry?
Thank you, Mr. Yogesh, and I'm very much thankful to you for inviting me for this wonderful conversation, and I'm very happy to see you. So your point is that, whether India is going to sustain. I wanted to tell you, and at the same time, I'll tell you about the background also. The pharmaceutical industry, and particularly the exports, are doing very well since last 3 years. Before last year, we recorded 10.5% growth year on year. And in 18-19, it was 10.5% growth. And 19-20, we recorded 7.52 is the growth rate. Everybody expected that, this is going to be a very difficult time for Indian pharmaceutical industry, and the exports are going to get affected with the disruption in the logistics, as well as COVID, particularly in China. We are largely dependent on China. So it's to the surprise of others. Particularly, I was not surprised. I was telling very clearly since last couple of years that nobody can stop India from the double-digit growth in the days to come, as long as there is no alternative to Indian pharmaceutical industry capabilities and pricing. So last year, if you are talking about the May, I would like to tell you about August also. In May, you have quoted that India recorded 17% growth in May. But if you see from April to August, we have recorded 10.52% growth year on year. So that shows that, despite so many odds, particularly the policies of the government and putting a lot of restrictions in exports, so we achieved this feat. So particularly, if you see our imports of APIs are reduced, particularly in this period. And the formulations, last financial year, our formulation exports are 74%. Now this 5 months, our formulation exports are 76%. So we recorded $9.35 billion in these 5 months. If you see our, other than our conventional and traditional markets, major markets like USA and North America and South Africa and UK, the other areas, particularly surprisingly the Mexico, we recorded 68%, almost 67.59% positive growth we have recorded. And if you go to Europe, Belgium is the largest pharma country. In Belgium also we recorded 45.13%. And UAE, United Arab Emirates, actually there is a growth of 40%. If you see the data, what is available with us, so I don't see any problem in sustaining our exports. Particularly our major the product, we're expecting it's going to be a game changer. The vaccine area, we have not yet started working on that. So I don't see any problem with our exports. Last year also I said that everything goes well, we'll record 22 billion. Unfortunately, we are little short of 22 billion. Last year, we recorded 21.58 billion. In the financial year 21, I strongly feel that we'll cross 23 billion, and it may touch 24 also. I'm not going to get surprised.
Wow, interesting. I think it's coming from you, sir, especially Pharmexcil. And it gives a lot of confidence to the entire industry. And seeing the trend that we have achieved in the past few years, I have no reason to actually say that. I think we would continue to grow as we mentioned. So I think one more question which comes to my mind at this stage is everyone these days is talking so much about the sought after COVID vaccine. As such, India is a major supplier of vaccines globally. Do you think India's vaccine manufacturing capacity is efficient to be useful for the entire world for the potential COVID-19 vaccine? And when do you see actually the vaccine might be expected really? Are we talking of end December 2020 or maybe first quarter of 2021? What are your thoughts about it, sir?
So there was a news circulated throughout the world that August 15th, one company is going to launch the COVID vaccine. So I don't want to be an astrologer. At the same time, I want to be very realistic and rational, basing on the inputs what we are receiving. I think I may be right, or the industry is the right platform to say about the vaccines. I think our people are doing fantastic job actually. the Serum Institute of India. As you know that they're one of the largest producers of the vaccines, as well as Bharat Biotech is closely working with ICMR. And Dr. Reddy's had a tie-up with Sputnik of Russia, and Zydus is also working. So, if what I read from Dr. Reddy's Sputnik collaboration is concerned, the vaccine is available by December. But again, I don't want to be a center point for the discussion post this interview. I think my as a DG Pharmexcil, and I'm not telling the entire opinion of the industry or the vaccine manufacturers. I think 21st early months we may be in a position to see the vaccine. I think it's too early to say anything on that. If you see our capabilities, particularly the Indian vaccine manufacturers' capabilities, we are almost the WHO is sourcing vaccine. 65 to 70% of WHO immunization schedule is sourced from India. So India is having that capacity to produce large volumes. That is the biggest advantage. At the same time, the another advantage is that we can also deliver the goods at the reasonable price. That is one of the advantages. That's why entire world is looking at India. Particularly, a lot of inquiries are coming. And I think our vaccine manufacturers certainly going to meet the required volumes in the days to come. And the international organizations and others are very much in touch with the organization, and they got reasonable number of orders also. Let us hope for the best, and let us, instead of having these virtual interviews, we'll meet if the vaccine comes.
Absolutely. I think that's the very important one. You made me happy by saying that. Of course, we are all waiting for the vaccine, and it's a proud moment to be an Indian, because, as you say, I think very, very rightly coming from you, as India, we should be proud that we will be able to supply as many vaccines as the world needs with our production capacity, that the best quality at a very reasonable price. So I think it's a very good thing to be an Indian pharmaceutical company at this stage, really. I think taking it ahead from there, of course, I think this comes with the various hats that you have wore in the past and now you're wearing. I think from a regulator involved in prosecution of substandard drugs to one of the highest authority as a facilitator, being the Director General of Pharmexcil. Tell us about your professional journey. I think it will be great for our audiences to know how you transitioned from a particular role to a different role altogether, which probably might be contradictory in some ways. What have you learned from both these roles also? That will be great to hear.
Sometimes I'll also get surprised myself that how I became a facilitator. when I joined in before coming to Drugs Control Administration, when I was a student, I always preferred to be a social scientist.
Oh, really?
Somehow I landed in Drugs Control Administration. My seniors used to tell that when I joined in 1989, my senior officers used to tell that regulator is a facilitator. I always used to differ. Regulator will not be a facilitator. So I was a hardcore regulator. Now most of my Pharmexcil friends and industry may not relish. I have filed highest number of prosecutions against the offenders of the drug laws, including spurious drugs and sale of habit-forming drugs. And I'm the person actually who initiated the prosecutions under Drugs Price Control Order in 1995. Whatever is happening in drugs control today, as far as these cases are concerned, I'm almost 20 years ahead of all my colleagues. So I always say that, regulator should not be a facilitator. If you call yourself as a facilitator, something is wrong with your regulations. The objective of the regulator is to see that the legislations under drugs and cosmetics and rules and all other enactment also be executed meticulously. And the objective of the act is also see that, everybody in this country should get a quality and efficacious drugs at affordable price. That is the mandate to the regulator. Regulators are not here to give the licenses left and right and within no time and facilitate it. This is completely two barriers. There is a not a thin line. There is a strong line between the regulators and the manufacturers. That's good. So if I talk more about my role as a regulator,
people, but then how did you transition it from? I think we are very keen to know that, because you still have that tough avatar from the outside, but then you really are facilitator now, growing the pharma.
Yes. I'm coming to that point. Actually, when somebody asked me and suggested me to come to Pharmaceuticals Export Promotion Council of India, I thought that how I can work here. That was my thinking process, and I was hesitant, and I said no. Again, there was a discussion. Then I thought that we will be there, and we have to see how best we can work. If I am unable to do anything, the option is I can go back to my drug control department. So when my first interview was, before calling for main interview, there was an interview, and during that, 3-4 questions seriously from all the board members. One is that you're altogether a hardcore regulator. How you are going to act as a facilitator? That is first point. The second point is that we heard that you have a habit of telling spade as a spade. That is also, it's not very good for the facilitators. I said that all these things, despite that you are asking me to come to Pharmaceuticals Export Promotion Council of India. So I enjoy that. So this is, I'm not going to change my attitude. Still, if you feel there is a role for Uday Bhaskar to play in Pharmaceuticals Export Promotion Council of India, I will try. That was my first interview. And my final interview also, they shortlisted, and they called so many drugs controllers also applied, and so many seniors and my bosses also applied. When there was a final interview, there also the point what they showed is that all in service he worked as a regulator. He is not having a pan-India exposure. Pan-India means I never worked in central government, and I never worked in any, straight away from university, I joined in as a regulator. So then the one more question they asked, that what do you say about the revival of public sector? I said somehow with the policies of the government, we dismantled the public sector. But certainly at certain areas, I quoted the example of ONGC, I quoted the example of LIC, I quoted the example of SBI. So you have to protect the interest of certain core areas of India. So to meet the national requirements, that was my stand. I know that the people who interviewed me may not like my answer. So the entire world is going for privatization. If somebody is talking about retaining the national industry, sounds very irrelevant. But I said, this is my opinion. So finally, somehow, that I joined in Pharmaceuticals Export Promotion Council of India. And I think people says that I'm doing well in Pharmexcil also. So they are telling that how Uday has changed from such a hardcore regulator to facilitator. So the common point is that whatever you do, you should be committed, and you should be transparent, you should be honest. Whatever you feel, you should speak and you should do. I believe in that. So I am doing that. So I don't think now my hardcore, I have not diluted my hardcore policies. I have not diluted my hardcore principles. For that we are paying a price also. For that we are paying price also. But if you see my council and the council, how it's going, and forget about the only exports in it. Particularly in exports, the DG is not going to change entire export scenario. The industry is doing good. I told you the same thing when you gave me the award in 2018 IFEX in Delhi. So this entire credit goes to industry. Industry is doing very well. So I am only a facilitator in making these things to move. But if you see my Pharmexcil friend, we have our own, now we established our own offices. We are staying and we are working very closely, and we are working very closely with the industry by giving so many incentives, and sometimes even we are fighting with the government to get our regular recognition or facilities, whatever it may be. So hope you are satisfied with my answer.
Of course, I think what I've picked out of it is, I think, being committed, transparent, and honest. I think if you are that, I think you could fit or change yourself in a way, transform yourself. I think, and you've shown that nothing is impossible. A regulator can be a facilitator. I think it's a live example for all of us how a person can transform. So great. I think good to hear those views. I think I wanted to ask you for such a long time, and good you answered that really.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And looking beyond that now, in fact, we talk of public healthcare, which is, of course, we know is bound to take a quantum leap beyond COVID-19. And the pharma, the small and medium enterprises will need to play a very important role. With the government focus now on small and medium enterprises, how do you think this pharma, small and medium enterprises can be promoted in India and across the globe? What does Pharmexcil are we doing to promote the small and medium enterprise pharma companies?
Yogesh, just my point is that, as far as Pharmexcil is concerned, the people who are manufacturing are exporting.
Yeah.
So are equally important to Pharmaceuticals Export Promotion Council. So certainly MSME needs a hand holding. And in that area, the government is working on it. And Pharmaceuticals Export Promotion Council also supporting the MSME. Take for example, if there is zero exports, we made 13,000 fee to 1,000 rupees. That is one kind of a support. And the government of India also enhanced the market access initiative for the registration from 50 lakhs to 2 crores per company per year. So many mid-level and small-scale companies are also started registering their products. So may not be in highly regulated markets, and the rest of the world and other markets, they are doing it. And exclusively, the government granted actually 25 lakh one-time grant to small-scale industry if they establish track and trace mechanism. That is only for the MSME. So particularly you have mentioned about, the contraction of GDP. You have that marketing and economics background. So when there is no manufacturing, there will not be any cash. So once there is no cash, again there will not be any manufacturing. So at this point of time, it is to be very tough for the small scale industry. So the big industry may not be having that much of a serious problem in a short term, but MSME has to have all these problems. For this, Government of India has to come up with a separate plan, particularly from the Ministry of MSME. My role, or the Commerce Ministry's role in hand-holding MSME is very minimal. But as you know, the most of the MSME is particularly working for the big companies. I know in Hyderabad and Vizag and Mumbai, Ahmedabad, there are so many small-scale industries. MSMEs are manufacturing the intermediates, or they are manufacturing on contract licensing and supplying to big companies. I know one of the big companies like that. I'm not going to name the companies. There are companies from MSME. They are completely surviving on one individual company, big companies. Like that, MSMEs, you can't rule out that they are going to have a serious crisis as long as our big industry is doing well in the pharma market. The second thing is that, if you see other businesses, the pharma is doing very well during not only 17, 18, 18, 19. As of the April-August figures also indicates that it's doing well, and it's going to do well, because if you see the kind of inquiries what we are getting from the different countries, they are very much interested to have Indian pharmaceuticals. The reason is that we supply drugs at a very low price, and some of the countries even trying to relax their regulations. So in the days to come, once Indian exports grow, it is also good to the MSME. They will also grow. At the same time, cash flow should be there. That is to be taken care by MSME ministry. And if particularly you're talking about the imports. So the big companies will import large quantities at a very competitive price. And small companies, it is a problem. They are not having big cash at their disposal. They may not be in a position to invest, and they may not be in a position to acquire more goods or more import. So the Pharmaceuticals Export Promotion Council of India developed a study report with the support of Commerce Ministry on import dependence. That report, we worked closely with the academia and research institutions and all the stakeholders. That report identified the platforms and low-hanging fruits and the products with we are largely dependent on China, and we are also consuming the APIs or intermediates or whatever it may be in the process of manufacturing our essential drugs. So at this point of time, the policy of Government of India is good, and they're inviting bids from different states. And certainly it's going to help the Indian pharmaceutical industry to reduce dependence. But what I see in the past 3-4 months, particularly after announcing that policy, every state is talking about coming up with their own pharma parks, bulk drug parks. I recollect, I read when I was a student about California gold rush, 1848. So they detected a lot of gold is there. Everybody rushed to that particular California and gold mines to carry the gold. I think mechanized gold, they used some of the content of that California gold rush. So every state is coming up with their own pharma parks, and Orissa announced their pharma park, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana. Today we attended one meeting with the Punjab, and again UP, they announced one pharma park. So my point is that it's good. It's good. They are thinking about to have this funding from the government. But the kind of funding the government is going to give it to the industry it's not a very big money. The money what is going to be pumped in those clusters are going to be very heavy. So government and the industry should be very sure Again, at the end of the day, market dynamics will play a very important role. So if you see the Chinese market, today, these parks, everybody will start manufacturing. If I develop a product for 100 rupees, Chinese will sell it for 80 rupees. All our Indian companies go back to China and buy that 80 rupees product. So my point is that in the process of this rush, so left and right, if you ask people to come and establish the companies, of course, the companies are very shrewd and they know where to go, where not to go. They know where to get the land and keep it for themselves. These are all different, different issues altogether. So this certainly, I endorse one idea is that government has realized there is a crying need to reduce import dependence. At last, after 5 years of Kato's committee's report. So the kind of money the government is talking is, one way we are telling that by 2025, Indian pharmaceutical industry should be 100 billion. We are talking about 9,640 crores for the coming 8 years. We don't know what kind of proportion and matching. Anyhow, what I feel as of now, we are almost importing 6.3 billion worth of APIs or formulations or whatever it may be. And if you see exclusively APIs, that is 3.41 billion and 73% is coming from China. So China, you mentioned about, Atmanirbharta. So this reliance, self-reliance, you know that you're representing a company is not of Indian origin. So wherever in this free trade economy and free market economy, if there are avenues, people will go there. The situation is completely different. So self-reliance sounds very pleasant to our ears, but in business, the businessman or the industry always think about how it's going to be profitable. That is the profit and loss is the first question in any businessman, whether it is for IBM or for Government of India or any other pharmaceutical. Not for Government of India, the pharmaceutical and the companies. So let us hope something good is going to happen in the days to come. But it's not that easy unless otherwise you have a long-term strategy in balancing the market as well as the pricing. The pricing protection should be there. Otherwise, in early 90s, we are very top in manufacturing phase and intermediates and all these APIs. So due to market competency and pricing, we left everything to China and we focused more on formulations. At that point of time, the Indian strategy was good. Again, it should not happen. So it's not that easy. Now we have to depend on somebody's expertise. And if every country thinks like that, our exports also will go down. If America says that Donald Trump was telling that, they wanted to manufacture essential drugs. Europe is also talking in the same terms, and the world is also talking in the same terms. If everybody wanted to manufacture their own goods, where is the trade?
So then can they manufacture that? Can they manufacture in the quality that India makes or at the cost that India can produce?
Yeah. As of now, even if we import also, China is not doing any favor to India, or America is not doing any favor to India. India is a big market, China is exporting to India.
Of course.
So we are exporting at a lower price. Donald Trump or US is purchasing from us. So nobody is doing any favor to India. It's a business. It's a business. China is getting profit and US is also getting benefited out of it. We are also benefited.
But what
So
I'm getting
this,
from you, sir, is I think our dependence on API for China will still continue to, at least for the near future, because till the time we are able to subsidize our producers to produce at that kind of pricing that China gives, right? At the moment.
yes, actually, the one thing we are always talk everything China as a central point, whatever issue is there. Chinese chemical industry is 1.72 trillion industry.
Wow.
So you can't address and you can't depend on somebody overnight. So the entire Europe left the chemical industry. Italy was one of the biggest chemical industry. They left the chemical industry to China. It's all depends, again, the competent, the pricing and the government policies, and it's all depends. We don't know what kind of a strategy China is going to have. Take, for example, MEIS. We are thinking about discontinue with MEIS after 2020 December. China enhanced their benefits. So that naturally, the China is also working very closely with different countries. So without making much noise, we should know our position. We have to focus on that, and we have to develop API industry, and it will enhance our export the potential, as well as we have to focus on not only on the conventional generic drugs, we have to focus on complex generics and biosimilars, and on so many new fronts we have to work, Yogesh.
Great, excellent. I think in that answer you also came up with what are the future, like the complex drugs and the generics as well as the biosimilars. I think that's the future. But I think now just moving beyond just pharma, I think coming to the our part of business that we do, as you know, I think we as CPHR, you attended so many of them. Thank you so much at the support that Pharmexcil has given us over the years. So I think most attendees when they attend trade shows like CPHR are attracted to the idea of proximity to the policy makers or the government stakeholder, the government decision makers who come in for the show. What are the features and qualities in the trade show that we do that government decision makers like you find it very useful for your mission? So what do you find useful in our trade shows when you come and attend personally in your personal capacity?
In most of the virtual shows, if you see, from the past,
I'm talking about the physical show. I'm talking about the physical CPHI kind of shows. When you come in a
yeah,
physical show,
yeah,
what do you find?
I'm coming to that point only. You, you,
Okay.
you mentioned that, what is the virtual shows and
No,
physical
that is
shows.
the next
People
phase.
want
That is
to
virtual is the next
interact
question.
with.
So I'm talking about the physical show first. Yeah. So in the physical show, what do you find interesting when you come in as a policy maker, as a stakeholder, government stakeholder? What do you find it interesting when you come to a physical shows?
I'm sorry, Yogesh, alternative to physical shows.
Attending our physical shows, when you sir you come and attend a physical show, be it CPHI or any other shows, what do you find it interesting? What do you find what is benefiting you? What do you look for when you come to the show? Are you looking at what is the industry offering? What are the new things that are happening, or the knowledge, or what are you trying to gain out of coming attending the physical shows?
If
CPHI
if
kind
you
of.
ask me if you ask me to talk about Pharmexcil, this is the question to be answered by the industry. So if you take, for example, the virtual shows and the physical shows, the presence of the policymakers
Yeah.
are always there, but at the same time, nothing is going to evolve during those meetings. But it's an opportunity for the industry. It may not be easy for the industry to interact with the policymakers if they are not at their place. So the one exhibitor may not be in a position to go and meet the minister or the secretary if they are in Delhi. So they can meet if they are present during these physical shows. At the same time, what I observed during these virtual shows from the past 5 6 months, every show or every webinars are attended by the policymakers, one or two policymakers. And industry also got a very wide opportunity to interact with them. And moreover, the policies will not be decided basing on the meetings. So it's again, policies depends on the thinking process of the government. So MEIS, take for example, we lost the case in WTO against US. We are going to dismantle that MEIS, whatever it may be. But there are so many restrictions we are imposing. So that is going to be a, speed breakers. So these are to be addressed, and the policy is always decided basing in a different way in our country. So that works in a different sense. In meetings with the policymakers in the shows, it's physically or virtually, is not going to influence the policies of the government. Every government will have their own policies, and they will come up with their own policies, and the opposition,
Correct. I think very important. But it's a great way to meet and interact with the industry stakeholders who can come in and policymakers gather together. I think so. It's sort of at least the ideas come out, a lot of different ideas. So I think it's a great point what you said. So I think one more question which comes to me as you spoke about virtual shows. In fact, as we are doing this month, as I told you about a Super September where we are having 6 virtual shows. Do you think virtual shows have a future once the physical shows start back again? Would you want, or do you think there will be only physical shows, or there will be hybrid shows where we can do physical as well as virtual shows together? What do you think? How would that be benefiting? Say, what would Pharmexcil look at?
my answer to is that you have a lot of exposure and you know what is the difference between virtual show and physical show. I feel virtual shows are no way alternative to physical shows, particularly in the business. Most of the discussions and visits will take place only through pre-meetings. So the continuity also not decided basing on your discussion. It is a business is altogether a different ball game. But at this point of time, there is no alternative to virtual shows, and this will sustain and this will maintain the connect between the buyers and the sellers and the facilitators like you and me. Nowadays, what happened, left and right, every day, everybody is coming up with these virtual shows. So now it has become a new normal. And if you see the speakers also, I used to tell Lakshmi, better, I skip most of the shows or meetings or whatever it may be. The same speakers talking the same thing, and everybody is coming up with their own shows. It's a physical show. Very few people, globally renowned people like you or some Indian showmakers, they will do that. But nowadays, virtual, you can purchase a virtual platform and you can make a custom-made platform and you will circulate. And now it has become very easy without assessing the outcome. So this will continue for a very short period of time. I think you remember this. So even though there is no alternative, the present system of virtual shows will not sustain in the days to come. People will lose that interest. That is my first point. Second point is that most of the companies, they started working closely with their buyers. They're not waiting for these virtual shows to happen. They're not waiting for Yogesh or Uday Bhaskar will organize a virtual show on so and so date to people to come and participate. So that's not happening. That's why I correlate with our exports. The business is happening and every company is talking to their buying partners and they are developing their own strategies. So for a certain period of time, this virtual show sounds good and at least they will maintain that. After some time, it is not going to have any relevance. My suggestion to you is that's what I was discussing with my people also. So we are just before that, I'll tell you, Pharmexcil is going to organize a series of business meetings, and we are also thinking about not to charge anything from our member companies in these events. We already started working on it. So we wanted to make more people to participate. So next you're talking about hybrid show. What I feel, as one of the renowned large companies in Informa Markets, earlier UBN. So you can organize a physical meeting of the leaders of the industry who are very much interested to participate in that. So you can organize a roundtable kind of a thing. Now IPL is happening, and there are so many events are taking place throughout the world. Instead of making people 300, 400 stalls or 5,000 stalls and 50,000 or 60,000 people visiting that, instead of that, if you plan a with limited number in a country which is interested, you can have a round table with the stakeholders and the industry captains. Of course, with your own, I'm giving this plan to you. With your own expenses, the people will take risk of attending your round table or discussions, whatever it may be. So you can make others to participate by charging something from them. This will make instead of somebody is coming talking in WebEx or a Zoom and he will go to next meeting. So if you have this roundtable kind of a meeting with the stakeholders, the captains of the industry and the stakeholders, then you can have a limited number of very serious players who can be roped in through virtual. That is going to, at least that is a semi contact that will be developed in the days to come. So if somebody wanted, again, I strongly feel, I may not be 100% right, but this kind of virtual shows will not go for so many days. That's what I feel.
Great. I think great to hear your forthright views. I think you're open and honest as you mentioned, and giving your transparent views of what you're thinking. And I like your way that nobody's doing an assessment of the impact. We are doing a show and then moving on to other shows. But what is the impact on the business? Are the business happening? Is the trade really benefited by doing this, or it's just knowledge sharing? I think lots of things need to be done. And great to hear views, and I think your views also on creating those kind of round tables or B2B meetings where the face-to-face meetings can happen, which will be more beneficial in a limited context. We'll definitely take back those views, see what we can do, and we'll be happy to work along with you as Pharmexcil also, if there are any possibilities of working together and creating such kind of unique platforms. Because as Informa has its own strength, Pharmexcil has its core strength with those connections also. So if we can create something for the industry, we'll be happy to work together on creating such unique platforms. As we are thinking, there are new days and we have to learn and evolve in new platforms really, because things have changed in last 6 months and they have drastically changed, as we all know. But I think that comes me to the last question for you. In fact, really for today is, you're seen as a leader across the industry and you come up your own hard way from wearing different caps and different hats. And I think I would just want to ask you a generic question, like as a leader, what would be your two or three leadership traits be which you will want to advise to our audiences? What has brought you here? What do you continue to follow, and what you would advise them to follow in the future?
Yogesh, actually, they are the leaders. My inputs may not be much useful, how to.
No, absolutely. I think, sir, you are a very much, I think, an idol for people who are coming, especially
What,
the things, how you have changed your career, how you have changed the roles, and I think it's a transformative personality, really. So that's why I'm sure people will love to hear your thoughts.
but I never be a businessman. I don't know what is business and how. I don't know what kind of a message I can give it to the business community or the manufacturers.
I think anything what you
It, it's on.
personally
It's on with whatever I discussed in the past half an hour.
okay.
My experience and my involvement and my vision. For this, the business the community, particularly the industry will have their own. I don't know how to
No,
answer your. It's a very tough question to me.
no, absolutely. From me, I think what I see in you, I can tell you what I see is that's a very transformative person who has come honesty and you're transparent about it. You're open about things. You don't hide your feelings. I think there's something which you have always, or I've known you for past 4 years now, I think 3 to 4 years now. And I think you've been always a forthright person. And if you called a spade, I think that is what I like in you. You have never minced your words. And you don't have anything which, like at times you see people sharing good things about it, but they are not really happy. But you have given me a forthright view that has helped us also come up something. So these are some things which I observe in you. If you are unable to say, I can tell the viewers over here that I think these are something which I have personally learned from Uday Bhaskar ji. Really seeing him how he does his work and how he's transformed himself. So I think these are something which I have personally learned from him to be open about it, to talk about it, and I think because that is the thing where you can in fact change things. Otherwise, you will keep on continuing doing the same thing the same way. So, and today also, when you talked about hybrid shows, I think you clearly, openly said, I think it is there because currently it's a compulsion. But if the things are there, if things are open, I would rather catch a flight and come and meet you in person rather than doing this web call, really. So I think that personal touch remains, and I think that's also a positive thing for me as a company because we are a face-to-face events company. Of course, we are doing digital events as a stopgap. I think it's a great way to stay connected to our customers, creating business opportunities for our customers. But then face to face is what I also love, and that's our passion. I know you also love those face to face meetings, and I hope I can come back to and meet you soon. Take a flight and come and meet you in Hyderabad and have a nice biryani lunch with you. And great, but it's a pleasure to have you here, sir. I think I know it's we did extend our time, but I think it was really nice to talk to you and get your honest, upfront views. And I'm sure a lot of views. I'm sure there will be so many from not only the pharma industry, but other people from various industries will definitely gain from
it. Yogesh, thank you very much. I'm so happy with this interview. At the same time, UBM as well as the Informa Markets is a very reliable partner, and we enjoyed working with you. And not only as a company, as a CEO of Indian operations. Finally, before I conclude, I always think, whenever you feel like suffocated with the job, you have to leave. So from day one, I always think that, you should work. Today is my last day. So if you started compromising, you will lose your the character and quality. So if that everybody should be answerable to their inner soul or whatever it may be. So I always think that tomorrow is not ours. Today is ours. Whatever you do it today at your professional level as well as at your personal level. I enjoy talking to you, Yogesh. Thank you so much.
Excellent finishing thoughts, sir. And I think I'm sure my viewers have loved it. So thank you again, sir. And I'm sure as viewers, you have also enjoyed this very open interview that Uday Bhaskar ji has given and spoken to us about his thoughts. And we'll definitely come back to you with more such chats and the talks with the leaders of the industries in the future. Stay on and enjoy this rest of the evening. Thank you so much.